Let's go ahead and call the Transportation, Highway Safety, and Policy Subcommittee to order. I'm going to start this morning, and I'm going to start down here at my right and ask Delegate Cohen to introduce herself and just share where she represents. And then we'll just come all the way down, including the introduction of the staff. And then after that, we'll do a roll call, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the order that we're going to do the bills. So, Delegate Cohen.
Laura Jane Cohen from Burke area, Fairfax County, HD 15.
Hi, Benita Anthony, HD 92, represent parts of Norfolk and Chesapeake.
Dolores McQuinn, representing the 81st District.
Emma Buck, representing the Division of Legislative Services.
And I'm Delegate David Reed, representing the 28th District, which is the eastern portion of Loudoun County.
Emmy Simon, Committee Clerk.
Good afternoon. I'm Delegate Ann Farrell-Tate. I represent the 99th District, which is Virginia Beach.
Delegate Ren Williams. I represent Patrick, Carroll, Floyd, Galax, the 47th, the rest of the Southwest, the mountains, the good folks.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Can we open up the roll and take attendance, please? I think we have everyone present. We have a quorum, so we'll go ahead and proceed with business. The first thing that I wanted to do is, hopefully everyone has the agenda. So what we're going to do is we're going to do these in order with the exception of my legislation, which is House Bill 24. By tradition, since it's my legislation and I'm the chair of the committee, we'll do that last. And when I come down to speak to my legislation, we'll have Delegate Anthony come down and chair the committee. So we'll start with House Bill 15. Delegate McNamara, if you would be so kind as to tell us what your bill does and what problem you are trying to solve.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. It's a delight to be in front of you. As this is my 6th year in the General Assembly. This is my first bill I've ever presented to transportation. So, and it's good to see you again, Chairman Reed. I think I saw you earlier when we passed your bill in finance. So House Bill 15, the genesis behind the bill, it was brought to my attention, but many of you perhaps do not have volunteer fire and rescue folks as part of your jurisdiction providing services to your constituents. Certainly in Delegate Williams' area and in my area, some areas we have part full-time paid staff, part volunteer staff, other areas where we just have volunteer staff. So it's something that's pretty important in the way we deliver our service. One of the chiefs of one of the volunteer fire departments responded to a call, and it was right around a corner, and when sometimes these volunteers will respond directly from their home. Sometimes they're in a station, but sometimes they're going to respond direct from their home. When they respond direct from their home, then a volunteer from the station might show up with an ambulance, a fire truck, or whatever. But when they respond from their home, they're in their personal vehicle. And so a number of years ago, I think it was about 8 or 10 years ago, there was a change in the code that said, up until that point, volunteers were allowed 2 little red lights that flashed when they responded to an event. I might add, responding to an event does not allow them to go through stoplights, stop signs, speed. It gives them none of those benefits. But what it does do is when they're stopped at the event, it makes them visible to passing motorists. And he expressed frustration to me that, they are allowed to have 2 lighting systems, which is good. The problem is they're about $1,000 a piece. And they also use their cars for going to the grocery store and other activities as well, so they don't necessarily want a fixed lighting system on their car. So what most of them do is they'll have 2 little red lights, and they'll put one in the front of the car and one in the back of the car. And his request was, can we just have all 4 sides? So can we have them so we're a little more visible when we're on the side of the road providing aid? Certainly When you think of an ambulance, I think some of those have over 30 lights. Fire trucks, I don't know how many lights they have. But even a lot of our VDOT crews, they all have many more lights. And he said they have many, many more lights than we have. And we might, oftentimes, if they might be in the road providing aid. So that's what the bill does. It says instead of 2 lights, you can have 4 lights. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Delegate McNamara. Are there any questions from members of the committee? Okay, seeing no questions, is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of the legislation? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition to the legislation? And Emmy, do we have anyone in the online queue for this piece of legislation?
No.
Okay, so seeing no one else, the committee operates on motion.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to report. Yes, ma'am?
Is that right?
Yes. And I assume that there are no alternate motions, so if you could now cast your vote on the electronic voting. Okay, Delegate McNamara, it appears that your legislation has passed by 6-0 and will be sent to the full Transportation Committee. So thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity to be in front of you, and I do like the Transportation Committee.
I'm glad you do. Yes, close the vote, please. All right. We have, the next bill is Delegate Ennis, and, Delegate Ennis, you are here. Okay, good. I'm sorry, I did not recognize you. I apologize. So if you would come to the podium and again share with us what your concerns are and what your bill is trying to achieve, and then we will go from there.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to bring up House Bill 31, expired inspection stickers for active duty military. Currently, active duty military members on leave that have retained their car registration in Virginia must have a current inspection sticker from Virginia or another state within 14 days of returning to Virginia. Only 15 states require an annual or biannual inspection, making it difficult for a lot of many active duty members to acquire an inspection sticker if they don't already live in or close to a state that has them. So Mr. Chairman, if I could read this.
Delegate Ennis, if I can just pause for a second.
Yes.
The attorney informed me that there is a substitute. And do you have a substitute for, is it a complete substitute or just an amendment?
I'm sorry.
Yes, Mr. Chairman and Delegate Ennis, it's a substitute.
So
Yeah, it's in the nature of a substitute.
yeah, so one of the things, and again, we've all been where you are at some point in time. So the first thing that you need to do is that you need to ask for us to consider is it an amendment in the form of a substitute? An amendment in the form of a substitute, and then we will take a motion to accept that. That will then put that before us. You will then tell us what it is that the amendment does, and then you will tell us about the rest of the legislation. Right. So let's go ahead and do that.
If I might ask, as you have said, to if I may offer a substitute.
Yes, so we have an amendment in the form of a substitute, and so if we could post that and make that available on LIS?
It should be available now.
Okay, so it should be available now, thank you.
You'll see.
And now, Delegate Ennis, if you could tell us what the substitute does and how that's different than what we had before us before, and then what the legislation is intended to do. So thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Well, this is, we want Virginia to always be very friendly to our active duty service members, and we don't want to cause any difficulties at all. And we just want to make sure that they do not have any problems as far as getting their cars, their vehicles inspected in a timely manner so that they stay within the law. So this law, this is a bill that will give someone the opportunity to have up to 30 days to get their car inspected.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to offer an amendment in the nature of a substitute. DLS should have it ready, and I've sent a copy to every member.
Okay, so Delegate Ennis, we have that. We've done that part.
Okay.
That was the part that we
sorry.
did at the beginning. No, you're
Forgive
good.
me, I'm new.
Yeah, I know you are. Yeah, and like I said, we've all been there. Some of us, for me, 7 years ago. For some of us, more recently. And it's okay. We'll work through the process.
Okay.
So it's been done. I think you've presented the bill, and I think that we're good there. So are there questions from anyone on the, any questions from any members here?
Do we have to make a motion to accept the substitute?
I thought we did that, but we should. Go ahead. Just,
Motion to accept the substitute?
is there a second? Okay, thank you. So the substitute is now before us. Thank you. So now, are there any questions from members of the committee? Okay. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak in favor of the legislation? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in opposition? Okay. Seeing no one speaking in opposition, the committee operates on, okay, there's a move to, or a motion to report, and, I'm sorry? With the substitute. There's a motion to report with the substitute. Is there, I don't hear a second.
Would you like a hard copy?
Okay, there's a second. Is there any alternative motion, or?
I move an alternative motion to pass by for today.
Okay, we have an alternative motion to pass by for the day or indefinitely?
Indefinitely.
Indefinitely, okay. That is debatable, but it is a higher priority motion. Is there a second to that?
Second.
There's a second. Okay, so you will have 2 minutes to speak in favor of passing by, Delegate Anthony, and there can be someone to speak in opposition to it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had a few questions within this code. So as far as extending the time, the day, this still doesn't prevent them from,
Delegate Anthony, just so at this instance, instead of asking him questions,
Yes.
you're going to actually speak and say why you want it passed by.
gotcha.
Okay, and so go ahead.
Okay, so I just had a few questions about the extension of time. Definitely we want to make sure that we make things easier for our military service persons, but it does not stop them from being pulled over, and they will have to prove that they are a military service in order for that extension to go to be in effect. And so I have questions about that, and so I just wanted to massage that in my brain a little bit.
Okay, thank you. And Delegate Williams, you wish to speak in opposition to passing by indefinitely?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you.
Go ahead.
I don't think that passing by indefinitely is necessary when the good delegate from the other side of this dais has some simple questions that could be answered. Much more appropriately be passed by for the day, let her get her questions answered, et cetera. Laying this on the table indefinitely does no good. And this is for our active military duty individuals who are coming back and might not have been here for 18 months. They couldn't get their car inspected, and that causes troubles outside in the real world. So, Mr. Chair, that is my argument against not passing by for the day.
All right, thank you very much. We'll now vote on the motion to pass by indefinitely. And so all those in favor of passing by indefinitely, please indicate on the electronic voting board.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Update on the board. Okay. And then open. Okay.
Okay, by a vote of 3-3 to 1 abstention, the motion fails. So we're back at our original motion, which is a motion to report. And we have a second. So with that motion being...
I'm sorry. Is it appropriate to stack the motion to ask for pass by for the day? just so we can get these questions answered?
It would be more appropriate to probably table the bill, or we could pass it by for the day. Okay, so there's a motion to pass it by for the day, and there's a second. So all those in favor of passing by for the day, please indicate on the, oh, that's a voice vote. That's a voice vote, so thank you very much. So all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, so Delegate Ennis, what I would encourage you to do is, I think maybe because of the substitute and some other things, that there were probably some outstanding questions that people wanted to kind of run to ground. I think that there also were some concerns about just this idea of, I think the intent is there and the intent is good, but I think there's a concern about how is the service member going to be able to validate, because I will tell you as a former service member myself, it's like I don't necessarily always carry my orders around with me, and I don't carry around my last deployment orders with me. Most of the time, those things are held someplace so that it's like when it comes time for me to retire, I can actually produce those orders and get enough points to be able to retire, and I don't want them hanging around with me in the car. So I think you might want to have a discussion with the members about the logistics of how this would work.
Okay, sir.
All right.
Thank you.
And thank you very much. And let's see here. Yeah. And do we have Delegate Taylor here? Okay. So what we're going to do is, Delegate Anthony, if you can come down here and take the chair, we will go ahead and move forward with my piece of legislation, which is House Bill 24.
All right, thank you. We'll be now hearing House Bill 24, patron read, with amber warning lights, certain hunting vehicles. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Chair Anthony. What I want to bring to you today before in House Bill 24 is this is literally, for those of you who are new, this is literally the definition of a Christmas tree bill, because in this entire section is the section where different organizations throughout time have said we would like for our organization to be able to have amber lights to be able to use to just highlight the fact that there is something going on and it's a warning and it's really for safety matters. So you look at this particular section and there are, I believe, 27 different definitions for how amber lights can be used. What this is doing is adding another one that would be specifically geared towards individuals who are road whips, who are providing safety support to fox hunting communities in Western Loudoun County and Rappahannock and Fauquier and all up and down kind of the Piedmont area where that is still very much of the culture. What is, I think, different in this particular piece of legislation is that I have been very prescriptive with what the requirements are for them to be able to have the amber lights, because I think a year or two ago they had put something in and it didn't get passed because it wasn't prescriptive enough. So I don't want to like read to you, but it's like this basically says you have to be a 501c3. You've got to be in good standing with the Masters of Fox Hunt Association of North America, which is a serious organization. You have to be 21 years of age, a valid driver's license, experienced in the hunt, aware of the land, knowledgeable, all of those other type of things. And in addition to being allowed to have amber lights on a vehicle while you are supporting this, you also have to have a sign that indicates that there is a horse crossing with a rider on it. Because what we're doing is we're trying to prevent individuals from accidentally going down some rural road and running into a person on a horse or a series of foxhounds that are crossing the road. So that's what the bill does, and that's the intent of the legislation, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Are there any questions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
question for the patron.
Yes, go ahead and ask your question. Delegate Williams.
Chairman Reed, I was wondering, you've got 21 years of age in there. Was there rationale behind, was policy behind that?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because you could be you can get a driver's license at a much younger age. But again, in working with the organization and the association, we thought that it would be better to have someone who was older, more mature, more responsible, because again, this is going to be someone who is going to be stopping along the side of the road, knows where the hunt is going to be going on, and is performing a safety function. And we thought that that needed to have a higher standard than just someone who has a driver's license.
All right. Any more questions? Yes.
Question for the patron. Chairman Reed, I know, and I missed Delegate McNamara's bill, but I know there are concerns when you start putting flashing lights on the side of the roadway that it's a distraction to drivers. Do you share that concern, or does the organization have that concern in relation to this particular bill?
I think, Madam Chair and Delegate Ballard, I think in this instance, because again, we already have, as I said, 27 different groups who are authorized to use amber lights, and this is truly the definition of a Christmas tree bill. And so it is, I think we are going to be in a less safe environment if we don't have somebody there serving as a road whip who's actually going to make drivers aware of the fact that there could be horses and dogs crossing the roads, and it could be a much more difficult problem, much less safe environment than if we did this. But it's a good question.
All right. I think we will have some in-person folks who are for this piece of legislation. First, we have on the speaking queue is Mr. Michael Pearson. Oh, Zoom. Okay, so is anyone present who is for this piece of legislation?
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody, members and delegates. I am Bundles Murdoch, Honorary Secretary of the Orange County Hounds in the Plains, Virginia. I have been their road whip for 24 years, thus the over 21 years of age. And I have seen the traffic increase so much that there is an urgent need for more and more safety, not only for the hounds and the horses, but for all the motorists on the road. Many of our roads are narrow, unmarked, with little to no shoulders, and even more scary, blind corners. Flashing amber lights and signage would help prevent accidents. I strongly urge you to vote for HB 24. Now I'm going to divert from my prepared remarks. Every time I go on the road and do my road whipping job, which is 3 days a week, I grit my teeth, say a silent prayer, because I take my life into my hands, trying to save the hounds, the horses, but I also worry so much about the other cars on the road, because other people who have nothing to do with the hunt slow down, and I worry so much about them being backed into, rear-ended by innocent people who come around much too fast around the corners. So it's for everybody. It's not just the fox hunters. It's really, really important. I cannot say enough. I am here to answer any questions. I'm always available to your committee for anything. And to you, Mr. Delegate Chairman.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone else present in the room who is for this piece of legislation? All right, is anyone in the room in opposition? Is anyone online for this piece of legislation? We do have a speaking queue. We have Mr. Michael Pearson from the organization Virginia Foxhound Club. Are you on? Are they online right now? Mr. Pearson, we need you to unmute. Is Mr. Pearson on the line? Mr. Pearson, did you just come online?
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm here.
Yes, if you
Okay,
could
thank
speak
you.
for this particular bill.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chairman. This bill is just about nothing but public safety. In the last several years, we've had 4 horses hit by automobiles, countless hounds killed. People are just unaware of when the hounds and the horses cross the road from a blind area, and there's no time to stop. You know, horses weigh 12 to 1,400 pounds. No one wants to be taking their child to school and apparently automatically, here's a horse. They can't avoid it. This is just a simple way of keeping everyone safe, motorists, horses, hounds, and riders. I would ask you to pass this legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Pearson. I believe as Mr. John Lovegrove.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I just wanted to add, I'm for this bill. I've been a fox hunter for the last 20 years. I've watched the traffic in Loudoun County get much more congested, and a lot of the newer people aren't used to horses and hounds and all sorts of commotion on the road. It occurs to me that maybe a road whip is a member of the hunt that follows along on the road in a car, an ordinary car, and attempts to keep everyone safe by either stopping or warning traffic that the hunt is about to cross the road. And they do, as Bundles said, they do an incredible job with what they have. I think giving them flashing yellow lights would really be good for all people, including the folks that are driving on the road. As someone said, a collision with a 1,400-pound animal is not going to be good for the animal, but certainly won't be good for the people in the car. I think this enhances safety all around while preserving a tradition and a way of life that's been very important to the Virginia countryside for hundreds of years. And I think that many of those people who have moved to Loudoun County and some of the other areas of the Piedmont value those traditions. It's what they want to see. And I think we can all live together better if this bill passes and the road whips are allowed to have the tools they need to make it safe for everyone. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lovegrove. Is anyone else online for this piece of legislation? Okay, is anyone online against or in opposition of this legislation?
Second.
All right. It has been moved and seconded to report HB 24, amber warning lights. All right. We'll open the vote.
I saw. Okay, I believe everyone has had a chance to cast their vote, so you can close the vote. And yes, and the legislation passes 6-0. So thank you very much, and I see that Delegate Taylor has now arrived. So, and thank you, Delegate Anthony, for chairing the committee. Okay, so we're now going to take a look at HB 49 with Delegate Taylor. So if you would be so kind as to share with us your legislation and what problem you are trying to solve.
First of all, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, and please accept my apologies. I did not get a notification, so thank you for your patience and understanding. Today, I'm happy to present HB. I'm sorry.
Taylor, I can tell you that it's like many of my notifications were going into the spam filter, so I would encourage you to check there and,
yes,
and say that they're not junk, and then it'll work fine.
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Please proceed.
Thank you. I'm happy to present HB 49, which allows window tinting on all emergency vehicles, medical services vehicles, and vehicles to fight fire, including publicly owned state forest warden vehicles. This bill was brought to me by one of our fire captains in Prince George County. Current law authorized tinting on the rear and side windows of EMS vehicles used to transport patients. This bill would allow localities, if they so chose, to tint their own vehicles.
Okay, are there questions for the patron? Go ahead, Delegate Anthony.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I have a particular question. I know that already there's legislation that allows emergency medical services to make sure that they shield patients and to regulate the temperature of the vehicle. We're talking about safer roads here as far as adding in fire trucks to maneuver streets. How is it that they will be able to maneuver in tight corners if their windows are tinted? I wanted to make sure that we have safer roads, and so if we add in the fire trucks and those types of vehicles, we want to make sure that they are maneuvering correctly. And so if they're tinted, then that shields their vision.
Sure. So I actually addressed this issue with the state police, and that's why it was brought to me on behalf of a fire captain in Prince George County. So the state police have said this is fine. They agree. There's no opposition to that. It would never be a extremely dark tint. It would just be enough to manage some heat.
Are there
I have a follow-up.
Yes, go ahead.
So follow-up. So why is it necessary to tint these vehicles?
That was something that Prince George Fire and EMS wanted for their vehicles. It like I said, it cooled the vehicles or kept them cooler.
So Delegate Taylor, I do have a question. I'm looking. I don't see questions down here, but y'all. Oh, huh? Oh,
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I have a question for the patron.
Yes, please.
Delegate Taylor. So this would basically let EMS and fire tint their front windows, which is no longer a crime in Virginia, correct?
Yes.
So if everybody else can do it, why can't fire and EMS do it?
Well, and that was why I reached out to the state police. We just wanted to be sure that we were on the same page. It was, like I said, it was a state police that had stopped these emergency vehicles. So we just want to make sure that everyone understands each other, and we just have some clarification on the issue.
If I could just, Delegate Williams, I just want to ask for clarification from the attorney on this, because we were just talking. It's like, I think that there's a difference between being a primary offense for being stopped and it actually being illegal. So if you
I'm looking forward to that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chairman, it is still illegal to tint the front windows, but however, it is a secondary offense.
All right, thank you. And Delegate Cohen, you have a question?
Mr. Chair, I had a question. I appreciate it. I guess going back a few questions. One, the idea of having EMS be able to tint their rear windows when they're transporting patients. You know, my understanding in the past is that had not been done for some level of transparency so people could see in and see what was happening with patients. So just wanted to check on that piece. And also my understanding is that in the past when we have looked at any tenting, there was a degree of tenting that we had normally allowed and then not allowed. And so I guess I just wanted to get more information on that, please. Thank you.
Well, in my conversation with the state police, there was no particular degree of tenting that they required or disagreed with.
All right. Delegate Williams, you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I'd like to ask a question of staff, attorney.
Go ahead.
I would like to know the differences between a primary offense and a secondary offense and whether or not somebody can get pulled over for one or the other.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, a difference between a primary and a secondary offense is, primary offense is what we refer to as an offense for which a law enforcement officer may stop a vehicle. Secondary is one for which they could issue a citation if they had other cause to stop the vehicle, but it is not cause to stop the vehicle.
Mr. Chair, I'd like a follow-up.
Yes, go ahead.
So right now, if your windows are tinted and you're a private citizen, you cannot get pulled over for it.
Mr. Chairman, that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. And are there other questions for anyone? Delegate Cohen, do you have another question? Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I had a follow-up. I apologize, but I didn't think that Delegate Taylor had answered the first piece of my question about emergency medical services and the need to be able to see in those back rear windows.
Do you have any input?
I mean, being that this legislation and this came on the behalf of a fire captain in Prince George County, obviously I feel that they are not going to tint a vehicle to the point where they have any kind of visibility issue.
Delegate Todd.
Sorry, may I just
go ahead.
follow up on that, Mr. Chairman? I mean for people to be able to see into the back of the vehicle as opposed to, my understanding was that traditionally those rear vehicles, there's a reason why they were left out of this initial provision, was for transparency for people to see in and see what services are being rendered. So that was my question, not see out, see in.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Delegate Tata, sorry. I'll get it right.
That's okay. Mr. Chairman, speaking of the bill.
Let's finish with questions.
Well, can I, okay, then I'll question. I just want to clarify, so right now, current law already authorizes rear and side windows of emergency vehicles tinted, right? And that's for transporting patients, and this is for fire trucks?
Yes, all emergency vehicles.
So they just want all emergency vehicles. So already some, it's allowed. And also, is that right? It's already allowed. It's already authorized already, right? For the rear windows?
I'm sorry, I'm a little confused. Obviously, there was a problem. There was a problem between the state police and the emergency vehicles in Prince George County. And so this would just clarify any confusion on what a locality can do, or, it's completely up to them. We're not saying that we're going to tint every emergency vehicle in Virginia, but just, clarify it so if a county would choose to do that, they could, and not be in any violation.
I'm going to interrupt here for just a second. So I think one of the things that we're running into is that there's a certain amount of confusion or uncertainty about when and how much, because again, I think where Delegate Cohen was going at one point in time was talking about tinting, and then of course you had said that they would tint to a certain degree, but it's not specified in the legislation. So I think that there's a certain amount of uncertainty as far as what the intent is. I understand what you're trying to do is trying to address a problem, but one of the things, and I'm using chairperson's prerogative here, one of the things that I have encouraged people when I've been talking with them is we can generally think through the primary and the secondary impacts of something. We need to think through the unintended consequences and how someone would abuse this.
Yes.
So I would be concerned about that. So let's go back to the questions. I believe in the order here, I've now figured out how to use this. Delegate Anthony is up, and then Delegate Williams again. So go ahead.
If I could, I'd be happy to go back to the state police and have a further conversation. And I do agree. I think we do need a number. We need to have more detail.
So if that's the case, does somebody want to make a motion that we pass this by?
For the day.
For the day?
I'll make that motion.
Okay. Is there a second?
I alter alternate motion.
Okay, we have so we have a pass by for the day, and we have an alternate motion, which is?
To pass by indefinitely.
Pass by indefinitely, okay. Did your motion have a second?
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a second. Did your motion have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a motion to pass by indefinitely. That is superseded by pass by for a day, so we'll make a vote on that. All those in favor of passing by indefinitely, please indicate.
Wait, that's debatable.
It is debatable, yes. Do you want to debate that, or do you want to add any additional comments, Delegate Anthony?
I would like to add additional comments. I believe we already addressed that the code already addresses emergency medical services to be able to tint their rear and side windows, particularly for being able to protect and shield patients, and also to control the temperature of the vehicle. But here is the updated in your piece of legislation. It says any vehicle used to fight fire, including publicly owned state forest warned vehicles. And because I have an issue of making sure that there is a road safety and maneuvering through different neighborhoods, and making sure that we also address the degree of tenting and to make sure that roads are safe, then that is the reason why I asked to pass by indefinitely.
All right, thank you. Delegate Wren, do you wish to speak in opposition to passing by indefinitely?
Yes.
Go ahead.
So it would not be appropriate to pass by indefinitely if we have issues on the table that can be addressed this year. The issues that I've heard is we could put a substitute as far as how much tinting, and we could also decide whether or not there are safety issues. I would argue that this is for privacy of citizens who are literally being held in these ambulances, and making sure that they are not being open and exposed to the rest of the communities. I have been driving down the road and seen the lights on in an EMS vehicle in the ambulance and seen them, just trying to save lives. And I think that it runs counter to what the majority has decided previously with regards to safety, highway safety, and what's important to pull people over for. And now this is standing counter to that. So I would argue that we should pass by for the day, let the delegate fix those issues, and come back.
All right, thank you, Delegate Williams. So we now, yes.
Mr. Chair, I just wondered if the clerks could help. When it's a pass by for the day, that means we would need to take it up at the next.
At the next meeting that we have, which is going to be next Wednesday.
So since we have an issue of degree of tenting, is there a possibility to lay it on the table so that then we could pick it up when Delegate Taylor could let us know that she's ready?
We could lay it on the table, and then we could bring it back up off the table as well.
I'd like to, I don't know how the motion stacks, so if it's not appropriate, please let me know if it isn't, but I'd like to make a motion to lay it on the table.
Okay, so laying it on the table takes precedent over both PBI and pass by for the day, so is there a second to lay it on the table?
Hey, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
May I ask a point of clarification? So, ma'am, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Taylor. So, all your bill is doing is in subsection L. You are striking the language of rear windows and rear side windows. You're not touching the phrase emergency medical services. Is that accurate?
Yes.
So that already exists in law, and you're not changing that.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay. Then you are striking vehicle used to transport patients. So that is a significant change. Then you are adding a request from your locality to include in the existing law vehicle used to fight fire, including publicly owned state forest warden vehicles.
Okay.
Your bill does not address what is already existing in law, which is the degree of tenting.
Yes.
Is that a fair statement?
It is.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so we have a motion on the table right now to table the bill, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, so there's a second. That's non-debatable, so we will entertain the motion. Is that?
That's a
recorded vote. So all those in favor of tabling the
Oh, it was table now?
Yeah, table.
Oh, table.
Yes. So it's a motion to table. We're all working through the new system.
No.
Okay.
Open vote?
Open vote, yes, please. All those in favor of tabling, please indicate on the electronic voting board. Okay, by a vote of 3-3, then the motion to table, you can close the vote. By a motion of 3-3, that vote has failed. We now have a
motion to report.
That does not take precedent over the existing motion for passing by indefinitely, which is Delegate Anthony's. So is there a second to the motion to pass by indefinitely?
I'll second.
There is. We've already debated that, so we're now going to have a vote to pass by indefinitely.
by you. I just got out of crimson. And open the vote. Do I have to?
So the motion is to pass by indefinitely.
There we go.
All those in favor of passing by indefinitely, please indicate on the voting board. That motion also fails because it's 3-3. So we have an existing motion to pass by for the day, which was from Delegate Williams, and that was seconded by Delegate Taylor.
Mr. Chairman, procedural question.
Yes.
So if we are passing by for the day to allow Delegate Taylor to work on this, it will come back before the committee. If we vote to report, and it's a split vote, 3-3, the bill dies. Is that a fair statement, Mr. Chairman?
That is correct. Okay, so we have a vote to pass by for the day, which can come back in a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, before we go to crossover. So if you can, it's your motion, and it was seconded.
Yeah.
And do you want to debate that again?
No.
Okay. Does anybody down here want to debate it again? Okay, all right, so the motion is to pass by for the day. That's a voice vote. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those that are opposed, nay. Nay. Okay, the ayes have it, so it's passed by for the day. And Delegate Taylor, thank you for your patience as we work through this. I would encourage you to work with your colleagues or the other stakeholders because there's a lot of kind of uncertainty about what we're trying to achieve here.
Absolutely, thank you.
And then we will work with you to figure out when we're going to put this back on the agenda. It can either be next Wednesday or the Wednesday after that.
Excellent, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, everyone. And I believe if there is no other business, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Adjourn, seconded. All those in favor? Aye. The committee shall rise. Thank you.
Great job.
Thank you.